teachers. The purpose of this video is to help you to know the instructions and scoring procedures for our Box Elder School District Trimester 1 math test. The kindergarten assessment will be given individually by the teacher or by teacher-para teams. A teacher should not push the responsibility of the test totally onto a para, as it's you who will benefit from knowing what your students can and cannot do. However, due to teacher time constraints, we realized that it would be very helpful to have a para be able to score part of the test. So if you ask them to help you with a section such as counting, writing, or reading numbers, that would be appropriate. The first grade assessment is can be given whole group except for BELS 1, which must be done individually in a similar way to the kindergarten test. A para may be asked to give the oral section, but you would be responsible to do the whole class section by yourself. I'll have you look over my shoulder now at the student material sheet. Kindergarten BELS Target 1, you would say, I will point to each number and you tell me what the number is. Then pause for 3 seconds on each number to allow for the student to respond. If they do not respond, proceed to the next number. On your tester form, you will circle the numbers if the student responds correctly. If they self-correct before you go to the next number, you may count it as correct. Be sure that as a tester you remain neutral during the assessment, being careful not to give hints vocally or through body language when a student gives an answer. You'll give 1 point for each numeral that's identified correctly. There are 6, so you will come down here to the scoring rubric, and if they identified 6 correctly, you would give them a 3. 4 to 5 correct, it would be a 2, and so on. When the student is nonverbal, you may need to do an accommodation. I would use the same scoring sheet, but I would change the directive to say, show me the number when I say the name. In this case, you would want to mix up the numerals and go to different points so that if you said 1, they wouldn't know to start here and just continue on in order. Use similar adaptations that you're aware of through the KEEP test on other questions. On BELS Target 2, it says ask the students to write the following numbers on a whiteboard. So if you'll have a whiteboard, marker, and eraser ready, you would say, now I'm going to say some numbers. I want you to write the numbers that I say. The first number I would like you to write is 2. Allow the student to write the number. Reversals are not allowed. So if a student does a reversal, it would not count on the writing section of the test. But it may be counted in other sections where writing is not the skill being assessed. The next number is 1. Allow the student time to write the number and then continue on through the rest of the numbers on the tester form. Again, use your rubric down here for writing to identify the proficiency score. The third, BELS 2 asks for the students to count to 20 by ones. So you would say, start at 1 and count to 20 aloud. Listen to the student count as high as possible up to 20. Identify the last number the student said correctly before an error, and then use the rubric at the bottom of the scoring sheet to mark the proficiency level. So if the student is able to do all numbers through 20, they would receive a 3. if their first mistake was 16, 18, the last number correct was 16, so you would find that that is the proficiency 2. And you can understand how that works on the other sections as well. The next BELS is one-to-one correspondence with counters. So you may choose any manipulative that you typically use in your classroom. Display the counters in a horizontal line. And then say to the student, use your finger to count and move the number of objects I ask for. First, count out 2 bears. Allow the student to move and count the bears. 1, 2. Go on and do the other 2 problems in this section. Record yes or no for each event. Then follow the rubric score to enter the proficiency level at the bottom of the testing page. The last part of the test is BELS 8, where the students are asked to identify 2-dimensional shapes. Say, point to the square. Allow the student up to 3 seconds to point to the shape. If they do not respond, point to the next or proceed to the next shape and follow the same procedure through rectangle, triangle, and circle. Record yes or no for each event, and then follow the rubric scoring to enter the proficiency score at the bottom of the tester page. I will now go to the first grade BELS test. You will be sent copies for your students of the student form, and there will be a tester form for each student. The test is on BELS 1 is very similar to the kindergarten test. The only difference is when assessing, the numbers go to 50. The student lists what you will need to read to them individually, and if you find that this is too much information for your student, you could make an accommodation and do the numbers individually in this way. Or if you find that it's fine to just point and ask them to do each number, proceed in a similar way to the kindergarten instructions. During the writing section, again, you will use a whiteboard and a marker and ask them to identify the 8 numbers that are listed in Target 2. I did not mention that in reading the numbers that self-correcting is allowed. So if they were to say 31, but then self-corrected to 13 before you move to number 27, that would be counted correct. The students will start at 1 and count to 50 aloud when doing target number 3. Record the number that they accurately count to, and then use the rubric at the bottom of the page for the proficiency scoring. Then the students will each have their own sheet, and when you this part you may do whole class. As a teacher, read the first problem aloud. 2 fish plus 1 fish equals blank. You may say, use a strategy that you have learned to solve the problem. You may show your work on the paper, then record your answer on the line. If necessary, read the problem again to the class. Continue to do that. If there is a box instead of a line, substitute in the word box. When you get to BELS 3, which are the story problems, read the first problem aloud. There are 5 birds in the garden. 4 of the birds fly away. How many birds are left? Then say, use a strategy you have learned to solve the problem. Show your work, then record the answer in the box. Then label your answer. The label will not be counted as right or wrong this trimester, but it is important to practice now as it will be counted on future assessments. The scoring is yes or no. Circle the Y or the N in this section of the test. And then again, use your rubric scoring at the bottom to help you identify a student's proficiency. An additional video will be emailed to you by David Blake showing you how to enter the scores that you have collected here in the School City program. As assessment correctors, David Blake and I would appreciate constructive feedback. We would like to know how long it takes your students to do the test and if the math targets are appropriate to trimester 1. We will analyze the district data early in December and look for ways to improve as we go forward. We suggest that you do the same thing as grade level teams, and we hope to assure that our students in Box Elder School District are reaching our end of the year mathematics goals. Heads up first grade. This time we are doing a paper and pencil assessment, but it is our hope that by the end of the year we will be doing your assessment online. Thanks for your time. See you soon.